Oh yes, it is indeed time for another episode of Is This Legal? My name is Colin McCallin, and like every episode, I'm joined by my partner in crime here, Russell Hebets. How are you, Russ?
I'm doing well. Hello, everyone out there in podcast land.
Yeah, Russ, we're kind of in that sweet spot of the year where we just had Halloween, but we're before Thanksgiving. Holidays are right around the corner. To which I ask you, when's the appropriate time to put up Christmas decorations?
Now.
No, this is it, right?
We're in it.
Right.
This is the spot. Now, separate question.
Yeah.
When is it acceptable to start listening to Christmas music nonstop?
We started last night, and I'm not even joking.
There you go.
Randomly, we just kind of sat down at the dinner table and
said, "Now it's time. Let's
Erica
go."
was like, "Yep, we're doing some holiday music," and no one objected. It was great. So I think now is the time to answer everybody's question out there. So, I mean, if you're listening to this like after now, you're behind the eight ball. You better get going.
My wife disagrees.
Oh, a little bit of a procrastinator?
Yeah, not until after Thanksgiving for her.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
But I disagree, so
Yeah.
we still play Christmas music.
Awesome. Well, let's get to a little true crime. Why don't we?
That's what the people came here for.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about a case going on in the East Coast involving former FBI Director James Comey and also former New York Attorney General Leticia James. All right. Now, both of these folks are facing charges out of the Eastern District of Virginia. This is United States District Federal Court.
Right.
And these prosecutions, Russ, have been all over the news in the last week or so.
Yeah.
Due to some really kind of interesting stuff going on with grand jury proceedings, with indictments, and to where a lot of people are speculating whether or not these prosecutions might actually fail.
Right.
And there's a lot of interesting stuff here, so we decided we were going to devote a whole episode to this whole thing.
Yeah, and what we're going to talk about is we're going to let you guys know what the underlying charges are. The indictments are. But we're not going to spend this talking about whether or not James Comey is guilty or not. Right now, we're way too early for that.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about how we got here, how we got to the indictment, and whether the government screwed up in their indictment or in this whole process.
Yep.
Because there's basically three different points that
Exactly.
defense attorneys for James Comey have brought up, and they're saying each of these different problems with the government's case merits dismissal of these charges.
Right. So this is a big deal, even though we're a ways away from any sort of trial or verdict. Right. I mean, Russ, you got to put the cart before the horse. You got to actually get a legitimate indictment in front of the court first, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Yeah. So let's set the stage a little bit. All right. Here's the stage. Let's set it.
Yeah.
James Comey. What is he accused of? Honestly, it's a little tenuous, but basically the best we can see is that he is facing a charge of perjury for alleged statements that he made under oath to Congress. Mm-hmm. And it's also related to obstructing a congressional proceeding. Essentially, the accusation is that he may have authorized a leak of confidential information to the media.
Yeah, basically, the government's saying that he did authorize a leak of confidential information when he was the director of the FBI. He was later brought before a congressional hearing where he was giving sworn testimony, right? So sworn testimony means you swear and now you're exposed to perjury if you lie.
That's right.
He was asked by a senator, hey, did you authorize this leak? And he basically said, I stand by my earlier statements, which were, I did not authorize the leak.
Right.
That is the one statement that is at issue here. That is the grounds for both the perjury and the obstructing a congressional proceeding.
Yeah. And then Leticia James, we're going to mention her briefly because I don't think her case is quite as directly as involved as the Comey indictment as we talk about. But Leticia James is part of this because she is charged with essentially bank fraud by claiming a second home as a primary residence in mortgage paperwork.
Right. Yeah. So you can't lie to banks in order to obtain a loan. Her argument is, hey, I didn't lie. This was me as a co-signer for, I think, her niece. where it was a primary home for my niece. There's nothing to see here. Government says, nope, she she said it was a primary home when she never used it as a primary home, thereby getting a slightly better mortgage rate and saving some money.
Now, why is the U.S. Department of Justice concerned with this mortgage statement? Well, Russ, I think it just has to be stated at this point. The backdrop for both of these people, the one thing that they have in common is they have both pissed off the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Yeah. James Comey is a longtime adversary of Trump, made things difficult for him during the first administration in particular. I think these two people hate each other.
Very vocal critic of Trump.
Throw in Leticia James. She's the former AG in New York.
She's still the AG.
Is she?
I think so.
Okay. I think you.
I think she's the current AG of New York, she's the one who brought the mortgage fraud case against Trump.
Exactly.
Where she got convictions.
Right.
So Trump obviously does not like her.
Right. And of course, Donald Trump is the chief executive law enforcement agent in the country. Right. He oversees the executive branch, which oversees the Department of Justice.
Right.
And very, very clearly what's going on here is he has directed his staff to pursue criminal charges against these folks.
He's done it explicitly in tweets, right?
Exactly. That's he's tweeted these guys are, quote, guilty as hell, unquote.
Right.
I mean,
we need justice now.
Yeah, you need look no further than his true social account to find out what he thinks of these folks. So, continuing on with this sordid tale here, let's talk about a guy named Eric Siebert, Russ. So, Eric Siebert is the head prosecutor for the Eastern District of Virginia. Okay, which is the
attorney there.
Exactly. This is a jurisdiction that serves 6 million people, and he is the appointed U.S. attorney. He gets this job in January of 2025. All right. So he is a Trump appointee.
Yeah, I was going to say he gets this job by being appointed as a temporary interim, because here's how it works: U.S. attorneys have to be
appointed by the president and then confirmed by the Senate.
I was just spacing that. Yeah. Have to be confirmed by Congress, right? So the president has the power to appoint them, then Congress needs to confirm them. If Congress does not confirm them, then they're a temporary U.S. attorney. So that's what he appointed Eric Siebert as in January.
Exactly. He was appointed as an interim U.S. attorney. Now, that interim status lasts for how long, Russ?
120 days.
120 days. And what happens if this man is not confirmed by the Senate in 120 days after his appointment by the president?
Per federal statute, the district judges in whatever district, whatever jurisdiction it is, the federal judges in that jurisdiction appoint a acting U.S. attorney that has the job until someone gets confirmed by the Senate.
Okay. And so Siebert was appointed by the judges then after his 120-day tenure.
Okay. That's how it went. Yeah, 120 days was up. No, he was not confirmed. District court judges said, that district of Virginia said, yep, we think he's a good candidate. We're going to go ahead and keep him in his job.
Okay. Now, why are we talking about Siebert? Well, this guy's a Trump appointee. And at some point during his tenure, sometime in 2025, he issued basically an opinion memo and circulated around his office indicating that they didn't believe they had probable cause to charge James Comey with any crime.
Yeah, he was asked to have his office investigate James Comey, to bring charges if charges were warranted. He did the investigation. And he said, no, not enough here. I'm going to decline. It's called a declination memo. I'm going to decline to charge him.
Okay.
Did that make Trump happy?
I don't think that made Trump happy at all.
Okay.
So let's talk about Eric Siebert. Just let's talk. How do you become a U.S. attorney, Russ? I mean, there's a lot of paths, obviously, but these are obviously federal prosecutors.
Yep.
This guy, again, appointed by the president. He's got quite the background. I mean, he's been working in the Eastern District of Virginia as an assistant U.S. attorney since 2010. So he's got a 15-year background. He handled all kinds of cases, Russ, related to violent crime, international and domestic drug trafficking, illegal possession and trafficking of firearms. He was appointed the lead task force attorney for the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, and served in that position from 2019 to 2024. So he's a big deal. He's tried a lot of cases.
He has a pedigree.
He has a very clear pedigree and a lot of experience in this office. So
he's
clearly,
like if he were a horse, like he'd fetch a good price on the market with a pedigree like that.
Yeah, there would be a lot of people who would be like,
bidding on him.
We want to breed future generations and pay thousands of dollars for this kind of pedigree.
Maybe have him litigate things at the Churchill Downs.
Exactly.
It's perfect.
I like the analogy, Russ.
Eric, you have a bright future if the law thing doesn't work out.
Look, the point that I'm making, well-qualified guy with a pretty impressive resume. So obviously, Trump, this didn't make Trump happy, so he wanted to maybe find a prosecutor that would be able to mount a case against Comey. So, Russ, I can only assume that the President of the United States would want to find someone with a really, really well-rounded prosecutorial background, someone who's just a go-getter, someone who's demonstrated a clear career of going after criminals. Russ, who does he go after? Who does he select for this job?
Yeah, so first I'll say maybe he wanted that. We don't know, but what he did was he tapped an attorney by the name of Lindsey Halligan. Now, Lindsey Halligan, people who have followed kind of the Trump orbit for a while will be familiar with her. Now, Lindsey Halligan had cut her teeth as an attorney in the insurance industry. She was an insurance attorney for 9 years. Then she met Trump at some point.
In 2022 at his golf club.
Okay, 2022. She got on his legal team. She represented Trump in a couple of civil cases.
Right.
Which,
there was the classified documents case where there was that special master who was appointed. She was involved in that case.
Okay, and then at least one more.
She filed a defamation lawsuit against CNN that was promptly dismissed by the court.
All right. So she, after that, she was then appointed as a senior White House legal advisor.
Yeah.
So she's on Trump's legal team. Now, she also, it bears mentioning, she's a very attractive woman. Mm-hmm. She's a local girl, right?
She's from Colorado. Yeah, she went to Regis University.
That's your alma mater. Oh no,
I went to Regis High School.
Regis High School.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a well-known, long-time university here in Colorado. And yes, she also, Russ, I think where you were going is she competed in the Miss Colorado USA pageant in 2009 and 2010, and she reached the semifinals and earned third runner-up, respectively, in those contests, Russ.
All right. Well, never hurts to be attractive, right?
Absolutely not.
So this is who he taps. Now, note the one key thing that we didn't mention when we were going through her pedigree is prosecutorial experience.
She has zero prosecutorial experience. Russ, she has not even prosecuted a person for walking their dog off leash.
Okay.
And despite the lack of experience, she gets tapped to be the head honcho of the Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney's Office. That is, she was appointed to that position in September of this year. She's still the attorney, and 3 days later, after her appointment, Russ, was when she filed the indictment against James Comey.
And that timing is important because this has not been explicitly said by Trump or the Department of Justice or the U.S. Attorney's Office, but the statute of limitations on Jim Comey's charges were almost expired. Okay, it's a 5-year statute of limitations. We're talking about something that happened almost 5 years ago. I think it was 2020. But the statute of limitations was almost up.
Right.
So if charges were
time
going
is
to
of
be
the essence.
filed, they had to be filed. And Lindsey Halligan knew her task.
Right.
She knew what she was charged with. So 3 days later, boom, he's indicted.
Right.
All right, so he's indicted, now facing federal charges, and now we're basically to today.
Yeah.
Right?
I did want to talk just for another minute about I guess the lack of experience that Lindsey Halligan has. Because some of you might be at home listening, well, she has some experience. She's been a lawyer for a while. Well, Russ, just talking for a minute about this, the law has very specific subcategories. Russ and I are criminal defense lawyers. We have been for our whole career. We both were prosecutors. We're both defense attorneys now. But that's all we've ever done. I am definitely not a civil lawyer. If you were to ask me to write a will for somebody, I would be like, look, I don't care how simple it is. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't practice that area of law.
Well, and this isn't even really akin to writing a will, because you're talking about a major federal prosecution involving a lot of moving parts. Like, this is not simple. This would be more like saying, hey, Colin, we want you to be the lead attorney in a national class action product liability case for a drug. That's what it would be like, right?
This would be like asking a pediatrician, hey, can you come in and operate on this person's brain for a second? I mean, these are. I know these are far-fetched analogies, but this is what's happened in this case. You took a person with no prosecutorial experience, and you've elevated her to one of the most important jobs in the United States criminal justice system.
So given that, it is not a surprise that there are problems. It turns out that we're going to go into, there are significant issues with the indictment.
That's right. And so, Russ, where should we begin first? Because there are several attacks that James Comey's team is making toward this indictment, toward this prosecution.
Yeah, so he's essentially making 3 attacks. One, he's attacking her appointment. Right? So in the first place, she shouldn't have been appointed.
Let's cover that really quickly. Let's talk about kind of you've covered it a little bit in terms of this 120-day thing, but what is Comey saying is the big deal here?
Yeah, here's what he's saying. He's saying is because of this federal statute, this is under the Appointments Clause. So this is the Appointments Clause in the Constitution, and then there's a federal statute that lays out the timelines. And it basically says exactly what we said. President can appoint someone as a temporary or interim U.S. attorney that lasts for 120 days. If it's not confirmed, that person's not confirmed by the end, the judges then elect a new or the same U.S. attorney to be acting U.S. attorney until someone gets confirmed. Okay? What James Comey is saying is that this was an illegal appointment. Trump had already appointed Eric Siebert. That appointment had lasted 120 days.
So he's the guy.
The judges in that jurisdiction had appointed him as acting. Trump doesn't then get to fire him and then
put someone new
and appoint a new person.
Either without the oversight of Congress or with the involvement of this judicial panel that appoints the judges.
Exactly.
Okay. So the attack is Halligan was appointed. 3 days later, she files this indictment. She has no authority. She's been bestowed no authority to actually file the indictment in the first place.
Exactly. She was appointed improperly.
Okay.
And it's significant that she's the only one that signed off on this indictment, right? A lot of indictments, you have a couple of U.S. attorneys sign off on them. It's actually a little unusual for the U.S. attorney to indict someone like this, but maybe because it's a high-profile political case, they might. Mm-hmm. But typically, it's an assistant U.S. attorney who handles the grand jury, who indicts, who does all these things, right? So this is only her. So here's the Department of Justice position is, this was at best a paperwork issue. The 120-day limit is guidance. Attorney General can appoint as many Trump appoints the person, and then the Attorney General is the one who...
That's Pam Bondi.
That's Pam Bondi is actually the one who appoints interim appointees until it's confirmed by the Senate. So basically, DOJ is saying, hey, this is still the president's power. He can appoint whoever he wants.
Yeah. We need someone to lead the office,
right?
And so this is all fine and good. Okay,
right.
So we don't have a ruling on that issue yet, but that was the subject of the hearing last week.
Yeah, and the one thing, like, this has come up before, Colin, in other U.S. attorneys, same exact argument. Other judges have actually said, you're right, the U.S. attorney is now disqualified. But in those cases, the cases they indicted didn't go away, right? So James Comey people are asking for an additional step. They're saying not only do we want to disqualify her, Halligan, we actually want to dismiss the indictment, right? And that is beyond what has happened before. And again, they're saying the only reason this indictment happened was because of her. This was not the normal course of action, and therefore you should dismiss the indictment. So this is number one. Here's why we want this case dismissed, first argument. And again, like you said, haven't had a ruling on this yet. This is being actually heard by a out-of-district special judge who's come in to make this decision.
There's a few different judges that are looking at all of these, and it's a little tough to kind of keep track of everything. We're going to try and keep everything straight as we're going through this, but there are multiple judges who have touched this case and who have made rulings on it, so it can get a little tricky.
Yeah.
Russ, this I think is a good time to maybe take a break and play a little Is This Legal? And then on the other side, we'll get to, I guess, attacks 2 and 3 that the Comey team is making on this indictment.
And those are kind of the juicier attacks, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're talking about complete incompetence, allegations of complete incompetence in this indictment, and vindictive prosecution.
Oh yeah.
So you don't want to miss.
Yeah.
Like don't.
Nice setup, Russ. We're getting better at these cliffhangers. Who's not going to come back and listen now?
You need to. I mean, I'd come back. I'm going to come back.
If we really wanted to be jerks, we could say this is the end of part 1, and we'll have part 2 in a couple weeks. We're not going to do that though. We're covering all right here. Yeah. All right. We're going to be right back to play Is This Legal?
Are you ready to play Is This Legal?
I sure am, Russ. Let me ask you, your outfit today. I mean, you're wearing all black. Are you going to a funeral or something later on today?
I just feel like asserting my authority.
I see. It's like a judicial costume. I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Look at me. Looks like we wore the same thing.
God, how embarrassing.
Yeah, maybe I should go home and change. Okay. This wig of mine is slipping my headphone off. I'm going to try and do the best I can with this, Russ. This is the point in our show. Welcome, everybody.
Where the wheels fall off.
That happened a long time ago. But this is where we are going to play our little game show, the show within a show with you. We're going to play a little Is This Legal? I am going to give you, the viewer/listener, a fictional legal scenario, and we're going to test your legal chops by asking you, okay, is this legal? What's the ruling that the court should make? So we're going back to Northamptonshire, and we're going to be hanging out with our buddy Jebediah. So Jebediah is at home in his wagon wheel repair shop, Russ, when Officer Cornelius rolls up in his police moto car and arrests him for illegal distribution of moonshine. He's been there before.
Hanging out there.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's still doing it. Okay. But anyway, he's not going to take this line down. He hires his girlfriend and sometimes lawyer Myrtle. Sometimes girlfriend, all the time lawyer. Yeah. Myrtle to represent him, and the case proceeds all the way to trial. Now, Russ, it turns out that the arrest was prompted by a tip called in by Jumpin' Jehoshaphat. He had lost some money to Jebediah in a poker game, and he wanted to get back at Jebediah. Okay. Jumpin' knew that Jebediah was dealing moonshine and provided a statement to that effect to Officer Cornelius, which led to Jebediah's arrest. Okay. All right, now, here's where things get interesting, Russ. Jumpin' Jehoshaphat also has a burglary charge pending himself in the same jurisdiction where Jebediah is being charged, all right? Now that burglary case is being handled by a separate prosecutor than the one handling Jebediah's case. Okay. Jumpin's prosecutor offers Jumpin a dismissal of his case if he agrees to testify in court about Jebediah's moonshine operation. Jumpin jumps at the chance for his name. He agrees and does so. And Russ, neither prosecutor, the one who handled Jumpin's case or the one who handled Jebediah's case, ever tells Jebediah's lawyer Myrtle about the plea deal that the DA's office offered Jumpin. Jebediah gets convicted at the trial by jury after Jumpin's testimony. So Myrtle appeals his conviction, and this is her argument to the court, and this is going to be the subject of your question, listener/viewer.
Pay attention.
Myrtle argues that the case should be dismissed due to the non-disclosure of the plea deal that was given to Jumpin' Jehoshaphat. The state immediately files their answer brief, and in their rebuttal they say, no, wait a minute, the prosecution of Jumpin' Jehoshaphat and Jebediah were completely unrelated to each other. They were handled by different prosecutors, and there was therefore no duty to disclose anything about the dismissal of Jumpin's case to Jebediah. How, good listener, should the Northamptonshire Court of Appeals rule on this issue?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one, Russ. So
we have a couple things here. We have the prosecutors are totally independent, right?
Yeah, not the same DA.
Not the same DA. Do we know if the if Jumpin's DA told Jebediah's DA?
I think in this case, it might even be an assumption that Jebediah's prosecutor didn't even know what this other prosecutor did.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. So that's a good piece of information.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, people out there, like, discuss it amongst yourselves for another 6-7 seconds.
Yeah, real quick in that time. What's your favorite
6-7?
Thanksgiving side?
Probably like a broccoli casserole.
Oh, very nice. Not what I would have picked. I'm going to pick the Pepperidge Farm stuffing. It's
Pepperidge Farm, like prepackaged?
Yeah, at least it can be, but like homemade's better. But like I've
You prefer the prepackaged stuff?
yeah, maybe I'm giving away something I shouldn't. But my mom did the Pepperidge Farm stuff for a long time. And, sorry, Mom, but it works. It plays. It's good stuff. Yeah.
On an international podcast, you outed your mom.
I did.
But at least you love it.
Well, she doesn't listen that often, so hopefully I think I'm in the clear. All right. Well, anyway, back to it. Russ, what's the answer to this question? Is Jebediah going to win on appeal, or is his conviction going to stand?
So, the conviction is not going to stand. The conviction's going to get vacated. He absolutely has a right to know that. This is something where you get to cross-examine that witness about their motives.
Exactly.
Right? Goes to Jumpin's credibility.
That's the word right there. Clearly, this was a situation where the prosecutor, and by the way, it does not matter that there were multiple prosecutors on the team. The same office offered a deal to one defendant and didn't disclose it to another defendant. That's a huge problem because, like you just said, Jebediah's attorney doesn't have the ability to cross-examine Jumpin' Jehoshaphat about the deal that he got.
Right.
I mean, this is essentially an allegation of bought and paid for testimony, and certainly the jury should have known that. So, Russ, what's the remedy here? Does the case get dismissed?
It does not get dismissed.
Okay, what happens?
So basically, the conviction is vacated, and Jebediah gets a brand new trial.
Yep.
Where now he can do that.
Exactly, and at that trial, the testimony would have to come out if they were going to call Jumpin' Jehoshaphat to the stand in the second trial. He would have to be asked about the plea deal that he was given, i.e. that his charges were dismissed in exchange for his testimony.
Right.
So how'd you do at home, guys? What did you think about that one?
That was a good one.
Yeah. Did you pass muster, or did you get the book thrown at you by the? Those are the best I could think of. I'll do better next time, guys.
Yeah, we'll be more prepared.
Well, we will be back next time with another episode of Is This Legal? We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you did well on this week's episode of Is This Legal? Right now we're going to jump into the grand jury, dare I say, debacle that it's turning into.
Circus. Yeah, I mean P.T. Barnum's in town, Russ. This is
he left his elephant.
This is a circus show, and I'm being kind here, but we're going to go through it. So, Russ, let's talk about other problems that this prosecution/prosecutor have encountered.
Yeah, so let's just recap really briefly how federal grand jury works. Okay, the prosecutor, or any grand jury, prosecutor presents evidence. They present that evidence however they want to a jury.
There's no defendant, there's no defense attorney.
There's no participation by the defense. Presents it, and then the jurors decide whether or not to bring back an indictment.
If that sounds one-sided, it is. It's very one-sided. The prosecutor controls the flow of information. The prosecutor controls all of the evidence that the grand jury has seen. Now, they have to be truthful. They have to present legitimate evidence. They can't present stuff that's all obviously false or misleading.
They can't misstate the facts or misstate the law, which we're going to get to.
And that's important because they do, in these proceedings, they do instruct the grand jury on what the standard of proof is, things like that.
Right.
So,
And
Russ, go ahead.
They need 12 to bring back an indictment. And
12 jurors,
12
grand
jurors. And right now, they seated the maximum for this case, which is 23.
Okay.
So they needed just over a majority,
Okay.
right? So they needed 12 out of 23. So the defense, Comey's defense, filed a motion requesting all the grand jury material, which is very unusual because, like we just said, this is secret. Defense has no participation, no role in it. Generally, the prosecution doesn't have to turn over any of that stuff to the defense. Okay, they are saying we deserve that stuff because we believe there was prosecutorial misconduct. That's a high level that has to be reached to disclose that stuff. The magistrate handling this was Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick. He, earlier this week, in a 24-page ruling said, I find that grounds may exist to dismiss this indictment, okay, which is the standard he needs, and therefore I'm ordering the prosecution to disclose everything related to the grand jury to the defense. This is an extremely high standard. It's not saying it will be dismissed, but it's saying grounds exist where it may be dismissed.
And he specifically cited a pattern of misconduct
Yeah.
that led to his order to release this information to the Comey team.
Yeah, so here's where we are right now. That was earlier this week. The actual judge handling the case, which is not Judge William Fitzpatrick.
It's Judge Rachmaninoff.
Nachmanoff.
Sorry.
Yeah, Judge Michael Nachmanoff.
Rachmaninoff.
Right,
Isn't that a
he's
composer?
I mean, he probably is a Rachmaninoff. But anyway, so he stayed that order. He said, okay, government, you're objecting. I want briefs. So he's got one brief that was due at 5 p.m. yesterday from the Department of Justice. Then Comey's defense team has to file their reply relief by 5 p.m. this Friday, and then he's going to make a decision as to whether all that stuff gets disclosed.
Now let's get into more of it, Russ, because
Yeah.
Again, this is a prosecutor who presumably knows the law and knows the burden of proof and how the presumption of innocence works and all that stuff. What allegations are being made about how she presented the information to the grand jury? I guess, what are the problems that are being raised with her presentation?
So there are essentially 3 problems with her presentation and then 1 problem with the indictment itself. So let's talk about the 3 problems that were raised with the presentation. First, apparently, Ms. Halligan implied that James Comey would testify or had to testify in the case in order to defend himself, which is a blatant misstatement of the Constitution's Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination.
Anybody who's listened to this podcast, probably at least 3 episodes, knows this by now. That the Fifth Amendment, that of course is your right to remain silent. You, if you are charged with a crime, you do not have to testify. You do not have to make a statement. You cannot be compelled to give evidence against yourself. In fact, you have a constitutional right to remain silent. Not only that, Russ, a jury would be instructed that your silence can't be used against you.
Exactly. This is like criminal law 101.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're in a trial, like if Colin or I are trying a case and the prosecutor stands up in closing argument and says, you didn't even hear from the defendant.
He could have testified. He could have cleared his name and he didn't.
Immediately, 100% of judges will grant a mistrial.
That is correct.
That is a blatant violation of their constitutional right.
Yeah, and even though not only is that a misstatement of the law, but just the fact that the jury heard that from the prosecution would taint the entire trial, which is why there'd be a mistrial.
Done.
So this is just a fundamental, if this happened, and we don't know that it did because we haven't seen grand jury transcripts, but if this allegation is true, it's unbelievable. And it's prosecutorial misconduct,
Well,
Russ.
I'll tell you, in the magistrate judge's 24-page ruling, he actually included quotes from Lindsey Halligan that supported his assertion that she did this. Now, those quotes were blacked out. It was like some of the only things redacted, but presumably he didn't make something up. Right. So, I mean, I think there's evidence there that she did this. So that is a huge problem.
She apparently also made a suggestion that, hey, if we don't have all of the evidence that we need now here, we can still get it later at trial. So go ahead and issue this indictment. We'll just get more evidence later.
That's the second problem, right? She apparently said that. She apparently said, hey, we're going to have a better case at trial, so return the indictment and we'll tie it up later.
If that sounds ridiculous to you, listener, it's because it is. Of course, the time to present all of the information that you have that you're using against James Comey, that would be now. That would be at the grand jury proceeding, Russ. It would not be, we'll worry about that later.
The whole point of a grand jury is to see if there's probable cause to bring it to trial. So you have to have the evidence to hit that probable cause. You can't say, we'll give you the evidence for probable cause at trial.
Any prosecutor with at least 1 day of experience, Russ, will know that.
Yes.
And of course, that is why we spent a lot of time talking about the deficiencies in Ms. Halligan's resume, with all due respect to her.
Yeah, so the third issue with the presentation that was raised by Comey's team and, ruled on in their favor by this magistrate judge is that apparently the FBI agent who testified, I think he was the only FBI agent who testified, he was given an overview of the case where he received a bunch of communication and evidence that was privileged or would otherwise not have been admissible.
These are communications between James Comey and another attorney by the name of Daniel Richman, who was a Columbia law professor who was assisting James Comey. They had an attorney-client relationship, right?
For at least most of the communication, it had been formed, that relationship had been formed before the stuff was used, right? The government didn't give Comey a chance to assert his right to basically exclude that information as attorney-client privilege, which is how it would normally work. Also, the information was gathered from an old warrant, which was not related to this case. So it did not authorize seizure of evidence of obstruction or perjury, right?
Wow.
So all of this stuff, if it's not going to be admissible, you shouldn't be using it in a grand jury. And the government's saying, hey, we didn't directly show the grand jury any of this information, but if the FBI agent's testimony was based on this, that's tantamount to using it.
Exactly. And Russ, you're not allowed in good faith as an attorney to use evidence that you know is not going to be admissible at trial.
Right.
And that's clearly what we're dealing with here. So, Russ, should we continue?
Yes. So those are the issues with the presentation to the grand jury.
Yeah. All of this makes Ms. Halligan not look great. But I would say none of it is compared to what we heard yesterday in open court, Russ.
Yeah.
And this is something that we really want to talk about. Okay, so again, there's a little bit of an explanation that you kind of need to understand here. But in a minute, I'm going to be explaining to you why Lindsey Halligan never actually presented the actual indictment to the full grand jury. This is something that she is claiming that the grand jury authorized, that they charged. Well, it came out in open court yesterday in a hearing that she actually never presented the indictment she filed with the court to the full grand jury itself.
Right.
Here's what happens. I'll try and explain this quickly. So, Halligan originally presents the original indictment naming 3 counts against Comey to the grand jury. Grand jury takes that. They deliberate for 2 hours, Russ, on these 3 counts, which is a long time for a grand jury. Remember, they're just determining whether or not there's probable cause for the case to go forward, not proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. I mean, normally they'll indict a ham sandwich quicker than that.
Yes, they will. I know of a lot of ham sandwiches who have been indicted faster than this case.
Right.
Okay, so after 2 hours, the foreperson of the grand jury informs the grand jury coordinator, hey, we don't have enough votes to indict on count 1 of the indictment. However, the entire indictment was then marked as though the grand jury declined to return an indictment on all counts.
Right. It looked
so they
like
reject the indictment.
They reject the full indictment.
Right, okay. Now, here's where things get weird. someone at some point conveyed news of the no true bill on count 1 to Lindsey Halligan or to her office. Halligan's team then drafts a new 2-count indictment with removing count 1 from the original indictment that was presented to the grand jury. She gets a foreperson of the grand jury to sign off on this revised indictment that has not been seen by any of the other grand jury members.
Yeah.
Both indictments, Russ, get submitted in the case. The one saying we're not filing anything, the one saying we are filing something. So the magistrate is like, I've never seen this before. You've returned 2 documents that are in direct conflict with each other. And if I'm seeing this correctly, the second indictment was never fully seen by the grand jury. In other words, the grand jury never voted on this second indictment.
Yeah, and that's what came out in open court yesterday when the judge held a hearing on this.
This part's funny, Russ. So these arguments, Lindsey Halligan is in the courtroom, sitting at the Department of Justice table, but she's not making her arguments. One of her deputies, a deputy by the U.S. Attorney Lemons, is a guy who's making these arguments, okay? Well, the judge, with one exception, the judge summons Ms. Halligan to the podium, and he asks her one question. Do I have it straight that the grand jury never actually saw this indictment, the one that you are claiming they voted on? And she basically confirmed that's correct. And so this is
not in so many words, but
right.
Yeah.
So this, Russ, what's the big deal here? Why is this a problem? So is this clerical error, or is this important?
So I mean, there's different ways to look at this, right? So if it were something like, let's say the grand jury returned a true bill, an indictment, and the U.S. attorney, as they're going to present it to the court, they see, oh, there's a typo. Like there's a name that is a typo. They, I think, can go ahead and fix that typo and still present it, and that's not changing the substance of it at all, right? Like, I think that would probably be okay. The question for this case is, so the government's argument is that's akin to that.
Yeah, this was a clerical error.
It was a clerical error. They returned the indictment in the other indictment, in the first indictment, on these 2 counts, and we just kind of streamlined it and presented it, and it's what they had already returned, so therefore, no harm, no foul, let's everyone move on. That's the government's position.
Yeah. Comey is losing his mind through his attorneys, though. Okay, this is what Comey's saying. Comey is literally standing up screaming, there is no legitimate indictment in this case. And he has a point, Russ, because we now know, it came out in court yesterday by her admission, that basically, the full grand jury didn't see the indictment that was actually submitted to court. What should have happened, Russ, in this situation, when the grand jury rejected the first indictment, Halligan needed to start all over. She needed to redraft the counts, present them independently to the grand jury, and get them to basically issue a true bill or not on that amended complaint.
Yeah, she didn't even need to start like totally all over, but she needed to reconvene the full grand jury and say, here is the new charging document. Because that's the key point. This charging document, this indictment, that is the operative document that creates the case.
And here's, again, why this matters. This isn't, again, some of you might be sitting at home like, well, this doesn't sound like a big deal. She changed it to reflect what the grand jury actually wanted. Didn't the grand jury actually recommend charges on these 2 counts? What's the problem? Back to our statute of limitations issue, okay? If it's found that this was improperly charged when it was, in other words, that this indictment is invalid, they can't go back and redo it because the statute of limitations has passed. Right. The judge has really no choice but to dismiss the case if he thinks that this was, a significant enough error.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, I don't know how this one will come out, right? But ultimately, the jury should have a chance to look at the new indictment and ensure that it's the same as what they voted on before. Right. Whether or not it is, I don't think there's allegations that it wasn't, but they need to have that opportunity. That's Comey's argument, because things could have been changed.
Well, right, and here's what I'm thinking about, Russ. generally speaking, the evidence, as the prosecutor presents it, it's kind of like, well, here's all the information we have, and then these are the 3 charges that you can, find appropriate. Well, what if testimony or information that they heard related to count 1, the count that wasn't returned, what if that somehow tainted the grand juror's perspective on counts 2 and 3? I mean, again, that's why I think the magistrate released all the information to the grand jury so we could get to the bottom of what was actually presented. Yeah. But I really do think Comey has a good argument to say this whole thing is sloppy, it was tainted, and it should be thrown out.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Like all of this stuff, by the way, these rulings are going to be coming pretty quickly, right? For the first issue we talked about with her appointment, the judge said by Thanksgiving she's going to have a ruling. So like this stuff is all hitting, but we have one more argument, one more open motion that has been filed, a motion to dismiss by the defense that's in front of the main judge, Michael Rachmaninoff.
Rachmaninoff. That's who I'm thinking of. Isn't that there a composer named Rachmaninoff?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
He wrote like one of the most complex things to play, I think.
Tell me more. What do you know about this guy?
I just know I think it's a piano piece where it's like obscenely difficult to play. You have to be like a virtuoso.
Do you think that he, like when he was writing that piece, do you think he was like, okay, I'm going to write a beautiful piece of music? Or do you think he was like, you know what, I am going to do my best to madden generations of pianists that come after me with this piece? It doesn't sound very good, but I'm going to make it super complicated.
Yeah.
That's how you set your stature. I mean, you knew that, and I'm guessing you don't have very many conversations about Rachmaninoff on a daily basis.
No, I really don't. Yeah, so maybe. I mean, if so, he cemented his legacy well.
Do you guys see the pearls that you get by tuning into the show, apart from just true crime and the law? I mean, you guys are getting a free lesson on,
Classical
17th
piano.
century composers. Was he 17th century?
I have no idea. Yeah.
All right. Well, Russ, where are we at?
So we're at the vindictive prosecution argument, right? So basically, Comey's team is saying that this whole case stinks.
Yeah, stinks like a rotten
to
fish.
high heaven.
Which it does, but that's...
I mean... But they basically are saying this is a constitutional violation, that the Department of Justice is basically penalizing Comey for his protected First Amendment speech. That
they're showing tweets from Donald Trump, and showing then what would happen in time after such a tweet. For example, this indictment was filed days after Donald Trump tweeted, "They're guilty as hell and need to be prosecuted."
Right. We need justice now.
Yeah.
Right. And so basically they're arguing this case is in retaliation for Comey's well-publicized feud with Trump. They're saying that it's selective prosecution. There are other cases that have more egregious facts of obstruction of justice and perjury that the Department of Justice is not pursuing, and that they're only pursuing Comey because of politics, essentially. It was interesting, Colin. Part of this, really, the declination memo we talked about, that came up in a hearing before Judge Rachmaninoff. Rachmaninoff. Just Rachmaninoff. Sorry, you got me on Rachmaninoff. Rachmaninoff.
Knock it off, man. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just going to keep rocking on. So this declination memo, the judge asked the DOJ attorney, the U.S. attorney who is arguing, he asked about it. He said, have you seen this declination memo? Does this exist?
Have you seen the memo that says we don't have a case here
against Comey?
Against Comey,
right?
When you're now telling me that there's a case against Comey.
Yeah, and the assistant U.S. attorney said he has been instructed not to disclose that memo because it's privileged information. He's been instructed by the Department of Justice, i.e., you have to think Pam Bondi, not to disclose that. So they've refused, the U.S. attorneys have refused to provide that.
Right. And in fairness, that memo is probably not binding at all on future prosecutions. I mean, people have different, this happens all the time. Some prosecutors will review a case and they'll be like, well, we don't think we have it. newly elected guy will come in and be like, yeah, actually, we're gonna try and charge this thing.
Right. Yeah, that can happen.
So there's nothing really unusual with that, but it's just one more thing that Comey is arguing.
And I'll tell you, like, ultimately, like, we've been fairly harsh with Halligan.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, we're not talking about whether or not Comey did perjure himself, right? And especially, like, you may be thinking, well, what about this protected stuff, this Fourth Amendment violations that the FBI agent testified to? If he testified to things that indicate that Comey did do this, isn't that relevant? And relevance is different from admissibility because we have constitutional protections in this country.
Exactly. And look, politics aside, we're not wanting to weigh in on that at all. We know that a lot of you listeners come to our podcast to escape from political stuff, and we recognize that, and we want to be true to it. But in this particular case, we're kind of calling it like we see it, and this is amateur hour stuff, Russ. You don't see these problems in an office that has a really good tradition. Well, you just don't see this stuff really ever. That's all I'm going to say.
All I'm saying, Colin, is if this indictment falls through because of Halligan, I don't think she's going to be Donald Trump's Paligan. I've been saving that one for about 10 minutes.
That's a good one. That was worth it. It was worth it. Well, yeah. I mean, let's move on from one dumb thing to another, Russ, shall we?
Yeah, let's do some dumb criminals.
All right.
Of the week.
Of the week. It is time for DCOTW, the dumb criminal of the week.
Well, Colin, today we have a hybrid DCOTW where it's kind of international, but it's also kind of homegrown.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're hitting them both.
All right.
Just giving the people really everything they want.
Yeah. Any Florida connection at all?
No Florida connection, so we're not giving them, you're right, we're totally not giving the people what they want.
Unless you live in Florida where you're like, oh, finally, these guys are letting us off the hook for once.
This is exactly what I want.
I hear you.
We're going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
A 40-year-old woman by the name of Amy Betro. It's rumored, Colin, that
you bet a Betro life.
she could have had a Betro later, half of her life. Yeah, it's rumored she likes to vacation in Florida.
Oh, okay.
But she, while in Wisconsin, has been a pet sitter, a graphic designer, and a disc golfer.
Jack of all trades.
Yep, with no criminal history.
Okay, good. So far, so good.
Now let's jump across seas. There's a man called Mohammed Nazir and his father. They somehow got into an altercation at a clothing store in England. The store was owned by a guy named Sikander Ali's father, and there was a fight where both Nazir and his father were injured in that fight, and it escalated and it turned into like a blood feud, Colin.
Okay.
It got bad and they were mortal enemies.
From like Hatfields and McCoys from then on.
Exactly.
Like, yeah,
right.
Montagues and Capulets.
Right, something like that. So, right, yeah, exactly. Those are all that, and then the Nazirs and the Alis. Classic. So, Nazir met Amy Betro online on some dating site and romanced her until, Colin, she was like putty in his hands.
Oh, no.
Instead of the typical, hey, give me all your money, he went with he went with the lesser known, hey, I'd like you to assassinate my rivals. so
seen it 1,000 times.
Right. I mean, you saw that coming, right? Everyone saw that coming. So Betro travels to the UK in 2019.
Oh, sweet mercy.
She disguises herself in a nakab, like a hijab,
okay.
Basically. It covered her whole head except her eyes. She went to Nazir's Birmingham, England home. She went to Ali's Birmingham, England home. She waited outside until he arrived. When he was getting out of his car, she walked up to him, point blank range, with a gun, pulled the trigger. Gun, fortunately for Ali, it jammed. Okay? He gets in his car, and peels out of there. Funny story, Colin. During the investigation...
It's already funny.
It's already funny. It gets funnier. Police, during the investigation, recovered a video from Nazir's phone from a few days earlier when they were test firing the gun, he and Amy Betro. And during the test firing, the gun jammed.
Oh my gosh.
But they're like, we don't need to worry.
Hopefully it works on the day off. We'll just worry about it then.
We got some good shots in there before it jammed. We'll be fine.
The Bill O'Reilly. We'll do it live. We'll just do it live.
So she, after this jam though, she wasn't done. She went back to the hotel. She changed into her American clothes. So now there's good video of her.
Oh, sure.
She goes back to the house and fires 3 live rounds through the front window. Thankfully, she's like, I gotta
Without
try to get this. I may not get laid again. Is probably what she was thinking. Nazir's gonna be so mad at me if I don't kill Ali. But she actually did, Colin, successfully flee back to America with Nazir. She evaded capture for quite a while until she was eventually caught, extradited, convicted, and sentenced to 30 years in an English prison for attempted murder.
Oh my goodness! Wow, Russ.
Whew.
I mean, what a love story, ill-fated as it is. I mean, Russ, it reminds me of that. Oh, what's that movie? It came out in the late '90s with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. It's You Got Jail. Good movie. I think Amy should have watched that one before she did all this. You've got Jail.
I mean, Colin, after the issues with the practice shooting, Amy should have known assassination's just not my jam.
She should have seen the red flags, Russ. I mean, his profile statement on the dating website said he was looking for a long-distance target. Oh, Amy. Oh, you Amy, fool.
Amy. Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, knuckleheads. This is where we rate the stupidity of the offender with 1 to 5 knuckleheads, 5 being the worst you can get, or, the stupidest.
I'm going to give Amy on this one... I'm going to give her a 3, and that sounds low, but I'm giving her 1 off for successfully evading capture for it was a number of years, and I'll give her 1 off because she was just love-struck, and she was clearly manipulated. But by the way, Nazir ended up getting 32 years.
Okay. Well, there's some justice.
Yeah,
there's
2 more years.
I feel like he deserves a little bit more than our friend Amy.
Yeah.
I feel like Amy, it's a PCOTW, a pathetic criminal of the week, a little bit. There's a little of that going on here, a forlorn kind of sadness here.
Yeah.
But maybe she's going to meet someone in prison, Russ. I mean,
you never know.
I guess she's limited to the female population, probably.
Right.
I don't know how they do prisons in Britain. I don't know. UK is pretty progressive. Maybe it's unisex.
Well, remember our other DCOTW from a little while back was a female guard with a male inmate. So, I mean, there's definitely male guards there. So, I mean, we know that stuff flies in the UK. I mean, who knows?
Wow. Well, I'm going to give her did I rate her yet?
You did not.
I'll give her a 4.
Okay.
I'll take 1 point off for being just a love-struck dummy.
Yeah. So 7 out of 10, Amy.
Good one, Amy. Hopefully you hear this one in prison. All right. Well, are you not in prison? Then that probably means you have access to a smartphone and you can rate our podcast. We would love you to rate us. Give us a 5-star rating. It really does help people.
That'd be awesome.
I ask for it every episode. I'm kind of like my vocal cords every episode are getting strained by the amount I'm asking.
You're super consistent though.
You have to record it the exact same way every single time,
right?
Because otherwise people are going to get confused.
Right.
So yeah,
you nail it.
Yeah. But you can find us if you want to talk to us. Send us a text. That's the easiest way. At your podcast description, wherever you get your podcast, there's a little thing. Send us a text. Text us. Give us an idea for an upcoming show. Are you reading something in the news that's related to a true crime? Tell us about it.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on anything we said today? We would love to hear it.
You can hit us up on any of the socials. We're on X, Blue Sky, Facebook.
Email us directly, denvercrimelaw, all one word, @gmail.com.
And then visit our videos on Is This Legal TV, or just find us on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and spread the word. So thank you for listening. We will see you back after the Thanksgiving break. Hope you have a lovely and gluttonous Thanksgiving break.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
See you in December.